Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Code with Anish. In this video, we will learn about behavior-driven development, or in short, BDD. So first of all, what is behavior-driven development? So it is an agile software development methodology in which an application is documented and designed around the behavior user aspects. So this methodology combines, enhances and refines the practices used in test-driven development. Okay, so before jumping into BDD or behavior-driven development, we should know what is test-driven development. So test-driven development is another methodology where when a requirement or whatever the business gives a requirement, the developer will first write test cases for that requirement, and after writing the test cases, obviously when it runs the test case it will fail because the requirement is not yet implemented. So after writing the test case, he will implement the requirement, he will do the actual coding, and once he runs that test case which I have written in the beginning, if the whatever code he has implemented, if it works fine, the test cases will pass. So thereby make sure the requirement are implemented and tested correctly. So that is test driven development. So now coming to behavior driven development, it enhances this practice. Why we request that? This is because, as I told here, in TDD, the developer initially write a test case. So this test case is written in any programming language. For example, if the requirement is written in a Java application, obviously the test case will be written in JUnit, which is one of the Java test framework. So he will be writing in a JUnit test cases first. Then once the test case is finished, he will write the code that make the test case pass. That means that he implement the actual feature. So what happens like this is, the test cases are written in programming language, which will be completely opaque, or the business user will not have any knowledge on this programming language. Business user will be only knowing what the business does or what the business needs. In terms of technology, they will not have much knowledge. So when we write a test case in any programming language and then show the result to them, look, this test case is running like this, they will not able to understand what exactly is doing. So whatever the developer shows, they have to blindly believe it. Correct, this test case is passing or not. So to overcome this thing, instead of writing a test cases, what in the behavior driven development, what they came up was like simple behavior or specification, which can be written in a simple English. So there will be a sets of behavior which will represent the actual use case, which is written in simple English that the user can also understand, or the business user can also understand. And from this behavior, we can, write the actual requirement, and this behavior should have the capability to test this application. So that is the concept of behavior driven development. Okay. So in the test driven development, the participants are mainly developers only, because there the test is written in a programming language which developers can only understand, and it is executed on a code that is also developers can only understand or know to write. But in the BDD, behavior driven development, as I told, instead of test cases, we write behavior or specification which is in a simple English, and this behavior which we have written should have the capability to test the application. So that testing phase, even the QA team can come into picture, and then the actual code, which is the feature. So that feature the developer can implement. So with this BDD, there can be a collaboration between the developers, customer and QA, with which once this framework is complete, when the application is developed in BDD, the developer can show the report to customers, and customers can also, because the behavior should have written by the customer, because in simple English. So the developer can show this behavior was tested properly and this is the report. So some of the tools used for this behavior driven development are Cucumber, Dave, JBehave, etc. And in this video, we will see how to implement this behavior driven development using the Cucumber tool. Cucumber is an open source software testing tool, and it enables us to write test cases or behavior. When it comes to BDD, we will not say test case, we say behavior. In TDD, it is called a test case, but in BDD, it is behavior because it is written in a simple English. And in the Cucumber, this simple English, even though it is writing in a simple English, there should be a format for that. So that is called Gherkin language. So this Cucumber BDD framework mainly consists of three major parts. So one is a feature file. So the feature file is nothing. These test cases or behavior which are written in the Gherkin languages with the extension .feature. So we can give any name like test.feature or run.feature, anything. It should end with .feature. And inside this file, the behavior will be written. So how the format of behavior, everything, I will show you once I start writing a code for that. So first is a feature file, then next is a step definition. So now we have written in the feature file, we have written the steps. So steps are the behavior which is exact the replica of what the actual business requirement is. We have written that steps, features. Now whatever steps has written, this step intent what has to do? It has to test the actual code, correct? So where we define all these things, the actions to be executed and all, that is defined in the step definition. Okay, so till this feature file, customers can pitch there and they can write or they can change it. From the step definition, it should be a developer or an automated QA tester. They will pitch in and they should write in the appropriate technology specific language. So from here it is something like a TDD only. TDD we write JUnit test cases, but here there's a wrapper called feature on top of that. So that's step definition. And then finally a test runner file. So why we need test runner file? Now we have a feature file and the features are technologically bounded by a step definition. And now to execute this feature file and intent call the corresponding step definition, we need a test runner file. So when the framework is done, so we finish the development, we finish this BD behavior and we finish the development, and to run this we need a test runner file which intent calls the feature and the definition accordingly. So this much component is required for the BDD frame to implement the BDD framework. So now I will show you a sample project to implement this BDD framework, and will show you how the test cases are run, and first how the behavior are written, and then how the test case run, and how the report is generated, which can be validated by the user to make sure the application has all the features which are specified by the user. Okay, as I told, this BDD framework is mainly used with the Agile methodology. So in Agile methodology, we specify the requirements as UserStory, and we maintain a tool like Jira where the business user will create an user story, the business user or the BA, business analyst, will create an user story, which will be then assigned to the development team to start the development. And as I told, the behavior-driven development, first we write the behavior and then only we implement the actual solution. So for example, look, this is a sample user story created by a BA. So here the story name, what they're saying is login management. And what the description they're given is, as an application user, I want to successfully log in when I enter valid username and password and get an error message on entering invalid. So this is a requirement from BA. So now, assume in the behavior development, as I told, since we are using Cucumber framework, we now to create a feature file. So the feature file is something which the BA can also create, which is in a simple English, which I told you. So how we can create this? First, I will open a project only. I will open a project and show you how to create a feature file in a Gherkin language. So I came to my IntelliJ Studio, and to start with that application, I will create a project here. So project name I will give as Cucumber BDD. Since it is a demo project only, I am giving the name as Cucumber BDD, and I am planning to write in Java only, and I used Java SDK 17 here. And in the advanced setting, I will give my group ID as org.codewithanish, and the artifact ID is cucumber-bdd. So I have, and I am creating this as a Maven project only, so I have the POM file generated here. So now to start with, I need to add some libraries for which supports the Cucumber. So let me add the libraries. Okay, I have added the libraries required for our Cucumber framework. So mainly it's Cucumber Java and Cucumber JUnit. Obviously JUnit is required because, as I told you, from the specification point of view, we are validating we need to validate the actual code. So actual code validation is done by JUnit only, the assertion and all that. So we need the JUnit. So Cucumber has given an library which will integrate with the JUnit, which is Cucumber JUnit. In addition to that, we need the JUnit. So I am using JUnit 5. So I have given the JUnit Jupyter API and the Jupyter engine. So these two libraries for, or this dependency for JUnit, and these two for the Cucumber. So that's all for the library side. Now we will go inside the project. Coming back, so this is the requirement, correct? So now, if you have in the introduction what I say, to create this BDD framework in Cucumber, what all we need? We need a feature file, then we need the step definition and the test runner file. So first we can create a feature file. So I'll come here source, and inside that in the test, I will create the new directory, resources directory. So this feature file we will keep inside the resources folder. So here, since our requirement is like a login management, and that is our feature exactly, correct, the login management, which we have to implement. So I will create a file like new file, and the feature file, as I told in the introduction, which will end with .feature and with any name. So I will give us login feature dot feature. Okay, and it will create the feature. Now if you see here, there are this file with .feature file, IntelliJ was able to understand it. It is a Cucumber file. So to enable this, what we have to do is we have to add the Cucumber plugin inside of IntelliJ. Okay. To add the plugin, you have to come to the settings and click the plugin, and here you have to enter the Cucumber. Okay, so once you enter, you can see this plugin. I have already installed this plugin. That's only IntelliJ was able to understand the .feature file. So someone who is starting as new in this Cucumber, you will see an install button here, and you can click this and you can install this Cucumber for Java in your IntelliJ. Post installation, whenever you create a feature file, IntelliJ can understand, associate this with the Cucumber framework. Okay, so we are ready with the feature file. Now we have to write the feature in simple English, but in a specified format called Gherkins, correct? So this is somewhere this can be written by a BA also. Developer don't want to interfere much, because the behavior is always, or the requirement is always controlled or managed by the BAs or the business, correct? They will be knowing the requirement. Technology side only the developer, and the testing side only the QA team has to involve. The requirement is always controlled by the business. So the requirement they can write. So the format for this is, I will show you now. We should start with something called feature here, and the requirement is for the login management. So we will give the same name here, login management. So inside this feature, if you see our user story, we can say we have two scenarios, right? One is a successful scenario and another is an error scenario. Correct. For this requirement, we have two scenarios, successful scenario and an error scenario. So we can write, so there is one feature and we can have multiple scenarios. So scenario is successful. Okay. So we define the first scenario. So first scenario, to start with a scenario, we should have another key like given. Given is the precondition. So what is a precondition? So precondition is, for a successful user, it should have a valid username and password. So I can give the precondition something like this. A user, so given, there is no colon, given. A user with username Anish and password Anish123. Assume as of now our system understand only this username and this password. So I have specified like this, Anish and password Anish123. That is a precondition. Next is the when. When is the action to be performed? So what is action? When I enter valid username and password. So we have a user with username and password. So assume the condition to be performed is the user clicks the login button. Assume in the application there is a login button. User clicks the login button. So if I click that, then what should happen? If the user click in, then what? He should be successfully logged in. Assume something like this. The response should be welcome. So if a user with valid username and password enter the login button, the response should be welcome. So this is something. Look, so this, if you see, this is the behavior defined in the Gherkin's language. So here it is understood, right? It's a simple language, but should with some syntax, like it should be like a feature, then scenario. We can have multiple scenario. Inside scenario, we have, if there is any precondition, define as given, and the condition to be executed as part of this has to be given in when. And once that is executed, what should happen? You should give then. Like that, we can give multiple when and then, and define the scenario like this. So this become irrespective of any technology, Java, Python, anything, any guys with basic knowledge in English can write this, right? So you can ask the BA only, whenever they write the user story, they can define this in the Jira only. Yeah, we can ask the BA to write like this. Maybe to make it more visually appealing, we can give some bold here so that they will understand. So this is a first, so feature is not required, or you can give like that. Feature is login manager, which is intern the story name only. Scenario, so inside that first scenario is successful user login, given a username with username this and this, then he clicks the button, it should be welcome. Same way we can define the next scenario and another scenario. So this is for the first scenario is for the successful. Now for the error message. So yeah, here for the error, I will make it bold this also. Okay. So here the second scenario is invalid user login. So first was the successful user login, then the invalid user login. So here given a username with the username unknown user, any user, because in our system, as per this requirement, only the username with Anish and Anish123 should be able to log in and see the welcome message. If any other user logged in, then on clicking the user click button, it should say invalid username and password. Okay. So like this, in the feature we can add multiple. So in future also, if there are multiple scenarios coming or multiple features are implemented in this thing, BA can add in that Jira, which the developer can copy here. So once it's copied, next we should ask the Cucumber to the remaining thing. So what we do? So now as per the Cucumber framework, the feature file is over. The next is a step definition. So here only if you see, already the Cucumber plugin has highlighted these steps in an yellow color. You can see, right? So if I see here, they're asking, look, undefined step reference. So it only will give an option to create step definition. And as I told earlier, step definition is something technology specific. So since we are using Java, we will write the step definition in Java only. So here also with this Cucumber plugin, we don't want to create a Java class file. This plugin only will create it. We just want to hover over and click this create step definition. So it will ask the file name for the step definition. Okay. So what I will give is, I will give login steps, right? And here what I can say is in test Java, we will create a file location called steps, and then we click the OK button. So now if you see inside this Java, we will have this login step. Yeah, here this is given red color because after adding the POM file, we didn't imported the library, we didn't load the changes. Let me load the Maven changes. Okay, so after resolving the libraries, we will get like this. So this step has been defined here inside this Java file. So the step corresponds, if you see, once the step is added, that highlighted color is moved on. So here if you can see, when we create the step itself, inside that method, the parameters is added by the framework itself. How it can be enabled is whatever we have to pass as a parameter and all, inside this step, inside the feature, we have to put, if it's a string, we have to put as a double quotes. If it's an integer and all, we can just write the number only. So the framework already has the intelligence to understand that as a parameter and create the method accordingly, as seen here. Okay. Same way now, if I click here, it will create the next step. So it will ask whether to create new file or existing file. So I will select the existing file only. So now you can see, right? So first given is done. Now the when the user clicks login button, it corresponds to another method. Look, now the second step is also resolved. Now look, even also if you see here also we are expecting a response here. So here also this method should create with an parameter string. Let's see if it is able to create it or not. Create step definition, login steps. Look, see, here we have got the method with the parameter string. So now here what we have to do is, this is the expected response. This is the expected response. So when I log in with Anish and Anish 123, I expect the system should give welcome. That's what I passed here. Same way, if you give this scenario also, this also same functionality but different input parameters. So if the parameter is different, then the message expected is this. So this is the requirement, and now we have created the text framework for this. The actual implementation is not done, but the test framework is ready. That is how the test-driven development works. We first write the test cases, then only we implement. So in behavior, instead of test, what we do is we create behavior first. From the behavior, we write the steps to be performed, steps to be tested, correct? That, and then we implement the actual logic. So first we'll finish this test framework and then we implement the logic. So this is done here. So maybe since the actual implementation is not done, we can throw some exception here. New pending exception. So this is fine. So now the second part is also over, which is a step definition. So first is a feature file, now step definition, and the third one is a test runner. So test runner we can create here only. New Java class. What we can give is cucumber test. Yeah, make sure you end this file with the test, because this is because we use Maven project and we run this test using Maven test command. So for the Maven test command to execute a test, the test classes should end with test. So this cucumber test I will give at run with. So run with is nothing, it is a JUnit library. So here what we do is you run this with the cucumber.class. Run with cucumber.class. Now there are some options which you have to specify here, so that the cucumber framework will understand what to do. So as I told in the introduction, this cucumber, this test runner is the class, or the test runner is what, which will find the feature and then execute the step associated feature, which is defined in the step definition in this class. So this is the feature and this is step definition. So now how will we make the framework understand where is the feature and where is the steps? So that we can specify in the cucumber option. We give features, okay. So where is feature? Feature is in the path. So feature is in the path src test resources, and now next one is we have to specify the steps. So steps can be specified using the key glue. So glue is used to specify the steps, and steps is where? Steps is inside the Java, the folder, the package steps. So we just need to specify only that package. That's enough. So the framework will understand, will read the features from this location. So we can, this is a simple project with only one feature, so I have given only feature, but when the project is very big, you can specify multiple feature and just give only the location here. It will read all the features file specified here, and you can specify all the steps also. If there are multiple path, you can specify that path also if the steps are, there are multiple paths. So here I am giving this steps because we have only one step specified in the steps package. Plugin. So plugin I am using to generate the report. So finally we need a report to see, right, whether the test cases are passed or failed and all. So the report we can specify in the plugin. So I will generate a HTML report, and usually it is generated inside the target folder only. So I am specifying the target as HTML cucumber report. So this much is enough. So this is the test runner for our Cucumber framework. And since we append with this test, and when we run the Maven command, Maven test command, Maven will understand this test has to be executed. And when it comes, it understands it has to be run with the Cucumber framework. That's what we specified here. And the Cucumber options we specified, feature is here, the steps are here, and the final report has to be created inside the target folder. So with these features, with these options, Cucumber will execute all the behavior or the features we defined, and then generate a report accordingly. So let's now, as we seen, we haven't implemented the code as such. We defined the steps with a pending exception. So let's see, we'll run this and see if these two behaviors are executed by the framework and a report is generated. So for that, we have to come here, edit configuration. We have to add the Maven configuration, Maven, and we will add test. So that's enough. Apply. Okay. So we have the Maven test, and let's run and see what's happening. Okay, there is some error here because it didn't throw error because I have just declared a penny, I didn't throw in it. If you only throw it, it will get the exception. So yeah, just some mistake from my side. So you have to throw new pending exception. Yeah, now if you run it, you should get an error here. Okay, look, there is an error. And if you want to see the report inside this target folder, you will see this error report and it's HTML format. And now if you open this in the if you open this in the HTML, you can see, look, 0% all are executed. Yeah, because if you see to do, pending exception is to do because we haven't implemented it. It's saying implement me because we haven't implemented it. We have only defined the test framework now. What is the business requirement? We have created the behavior now, but we haven't implemented. Yeah, so that should be the correct way to define the steps here, because whenever we define the step, if we didn't, as I defined earlier, if I just give some empty or if I didn't throw any exception, when we run this, it will show a success only, and thereby there is a big chance that the developer may miss to implement it, correct? And this will be caught in any other testing environment only before delivering. But our requirement here is with the behavior-driven development, we should cover all the behavior and we should test it before delivering. And when we test it, we should make sure all the features are working fine. So now let's implement the logic. So behavior is there. Now we are driving to the development, correct? Actual development. So now what we need? Expectation is, look, now even if we come to the story, this will be more clear, like the feature is here and we have the two scenarios. So one is a successful user login and the invalid user login. Now we can create a class here. So first create a package or dot code with Anish. Okay, now we can create the class. So class, I can give the same name only, login management. Okay, so I have created the class. Now what all I need? So I will come to the feature. So feature is when the user successfully log in with Anish and Anish123, he get the welcome message. So what I can create in this login manager is a class public void. No, not void. It should return a message on successful login, and I will give login management login and login with what? And username and password. So this is the actual feature. The actual feature in the real-time application, this method will be called when they click the login button with the username and the password. Okay, so now here the condition is if username dot equals, I will copy from the feature only, Anish, username equals to Anish and password dot equals what? Anish123. Look, so we are just getting the requirements from the behavior only and developing it. So this is how it should be developed, correct? So we don't want to refer here and there, and whatever we are developing, we have a reference, and that will be tested also with this behavior-driven development. So if this is Anish, what I should return? I should return this one, welcome. Else return invalid username and password. So our implementation is ready as per the existing requirement. Now in the step, we have to call this method and test it, correct? So first step is what? Given username and password. So we can define two variables inside this step, private string, what is it? Input username and another string is input password. So input username and input password. So in this step, what? I will assign whatever the username and password call from the behavior. From the behavior, it will call with the Anish and Anish123. So this I will set here, this dot input password, this dot input username. So that whatever I receive here, I will assign it here. And same way, whatever from there will be assigned here. So that's over. So that step, only that much. We have to assign the value. Next step is when the user clicks the login button. So when the user clicks the login button means we should call the actual functionality we implemented, login management.login. So what we do is new login management.login with what? This input username, and this is what? Passed from the input username and input password. Okay, and this will return the actual response. So that what we have to do, we have to specify here also as response, private string actual response. This is the actual response which will be returned on calling the method. So actual response is equal to this. So that's when the user clicks the login button, we call the actual functionality. Now here the response should be here. So here we should make the assertion whether the actual response got from calling the method will be equal to what is expected in the feature. The feature it is saying it should give welcome. So assert equals, so this is in turn a JUnit library, we are calling from JUnit only. So assert equals expected response is this actual response. So if we didn't get, if this feature, if here we anyway we are implementing, if there is any error in this implementation, this will not match and we will get an error. So that's all. So now we have implemented our logic, and now we can remove this pending exception, we don't need. Now we have implemented the requirement and we call the appropriate tests also. Now we just run the test and see if it is working or not. We just again run here. Okay, look, both are tested and there is no error. And now if we go to the target again and click this report and open here, earlier both got failed, but now if you see it was successful. Username with Anish, you can see everything as green. So if you really want to check the behavior, if it is there is something, maybe we can change it here. Here, for example, even if I give the Anish 1, 2, 3, if I change the step 2, if I make it as welcome 1 here, and now if I run, this test case should fail, just to make sure our thing is correctly working or not, our framework is correctly working or not. Look, it got error. Now if I open this, look, it failed here. Look, the second was passed, this was failed, because look, expected was welcome 1, but actual the implementation was welcome. So in this way we can understand, look, our framework is correctly validating the expected behavior. So this is how it works. Now assume in future there is a change in this requirement. So assume that the business comes saying that if it is an invalid user name and password, the response is not invalid username and password, it should be invalid credential. So what they can do, they can come to the user story, they can create a new user story. As of now I am not creating it, I am modifying here only. They will come and create, and they will create the requirement like scenario invalid login, the response should be like here, credential, invalid, instead of invalid credential, they can add it here, invalid credentials. And they assume they write this a new user story. That's how it happened, because once the story is implemented, we will not change it. It will be changed to done status. We will not change it. Now I'm not taking time to create a user story. Let's assume here only, like the BA has given a new requirement like this. So once given a requirement like this, we can copy this. We already have the feature defined in our code. So we don't want to go to the code and anywhere and check where have to change and nothing. We just come here. We just change the behavior alone. We don't want to change anywhere else in the code. Means first initially we don't want to change anywhere else in the code. We just come and change here the behavior. That is how the behavior driven should work. We should change the behavior, and the behavior framework should understand where the code should fail and make us aware that this code failed and fix it. So we just change the behavior and then run it here. So we will get a report saying that invalid user login, expected is invalid credential but was invalid username. Now we will understand this in the login step 29. Here is the failure. Based on that, we will go to the login management and understand that this is the code where the change is. And here now I have to change from invalid username password to invalid feature. And now again make the change and run it. It should pass. Still everything is passed. We should make the change. Look, now the two are successful. This is the way of implementing the business driven development. So here, because this is a small project, assume a very big project with hundreds of classes, a lot of functionalities and all. If there is no reference, if the developer simply writing the code and testing it, whenever a new requirement comes, it will be really difficult for the existing developer. To an extent he can understand, but a new developer will really struggle where the change was made, because the BA business will come and change. I want this feature, earlier this feature was like this, I want the new feature to be like this, they will give like that. So with this business driven feature here, we just need to, and since this is written in simple English, BA can also give the requirement exactly like this. So we can copy that requirement and change the steps here. With changing the step here, and when we run the framework, it will find the code where the changes has to be made, with which the change management become very easy, not very easy, to an extent it will become easy, and regression test can be very helpful in finding the bugs and fixing it then and there. Instead of we completely relying on the code, the customer side will be completely unaware of code where the change has to be made. And since there is like I'm saying, if there's no BDD, there is no feature like this, very difficult to backtrace and find where the exactly changes has to be made. So with this concept, business will know this is the feature I am changing. He can also come and see the feature, this code here. This code, when he sees, he can also understand because it's written simple English. He can say, this is the scenario I have changed, you please change it. When we change and run it, we will find as a developer, we can understand where the class got impacted, and we go and make the appropriate change here to make us the expected result. Change the actual implementation to meet the new expected result. Okay. So this is the advantages of behavior-driven development, and much advanced than the TDD. As TDD also same only, but TDD only thing is business cannot come and see the test case. For example, if you see this login steps and if you see this is a Java program. So here and all, business user cannot understand what exactly is it doing, but he can come and understand this thing, correct? So that is advantage of BDD over TDD also, and this is something which every company is following, and I also strongly advise to follow this step, because business has a lot of new requirements, keep on changing, and as we are following Agile methodology, the requirements keep on changing, and if there is no reference between the actual implementation, the code, and the actual implementation and the actual requirement, there will be super difficulty for the new users to understand where exactly. So with this reference, like a feature and then the corresponding code, it will become more easy for making the new changes and implement it. So that's all for today's session. I hope you like it. So in the next video, I will come with more interesting topic. Till then, take care. Bye.